The first ever Bitcoin ETF is now available in the United States. You might be thinking, what is a Bitcoin ETF and what does that mean for investors? And also, should you invest in Bitcoin ETF? We will answer all of these questions in this video. What's up guys, welcome back to Glory Investing Show. In our today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the Bitcoin ETF. However, before we go any further, make sure to subscribe to Glory Investing Show and don't forget to hit that like button. Now without further ado, let's get into this. And also, check out our website, there's a ton of merch you can purchase there. Alright, let's get going. First of all, I'm going to tell you what a Bitcoin ETF actually is. We all know that cryptocurrency and ETFs are two of the hottest areas of investment nowadays. And cryptocurrency enthusiasts who want to capitalize on the continuously growing popularity of ETFs, the possibility of an ETF that tracks Bitcoin might be the best opportunity for this type of connection. The only problem is that Bitcoin remains largely unregulated despite being the largest cryptocurrency in the world. Moreover, reports suggest that the Securities and Exchange Commission hesitant to follow an ETF focused on the new and largely untested crypto market. For those who don't know, an ETF is basically an investment vehicle that tracks the performance of a particular asset or group of assets. This indicates that an exchange-traded fund allows you to diversify your investments without having to actually own the assets themselves. Similarly, a Bitcoin ETF will mimic the price of the most popular digital currency in the world. This will allow you to buy into the digital currency without having to go through the complicated process of trading Bitcoin itself. Another benefit of investing in Bitcoin ETF is that you will not have to worry about the complex storage and security procedures required of crypto investors. Reports suggest that firms looking to launch Bitcoin ETFs have run into problems with regulatory agencies. According to a report published by Investopedia on September 1st of this year, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, famous for their involvement in Facebook and more recently for their Gemini digital currency exchange, had their petition to launch a Bitcoin ETF called Winklevoss Bitcoin Trust turned down by the SEC in 2017. Why this Bitcoin ETF was rejected? Well, the reason is that Bitcoin is usually traded on largely unregulated exchanges, which leaves the digital currency susceptible to fraud and manipulation. Well, Cameron and Tyler didn't give up their efforts. They were awarded a patent for a firm called Winklevoss IP LLP for exchange-traded products on June 19, 2018 by the United States Patent and Trademark. Cameron and Tyler weren't the only crypto enthusiasts looking to successfully launch a Bitcoin ETF. CBOE Global Market is the exchange responsible for bringing about Bitcoin futures. This exchange also tried to launch a Bitcoin ETF. The report published by Investopedia states, VanEck and SolidX, and fintech company with projects related to Bitcoin, announced plans early in 2018 for the VanEck and SolidX Bitcoin Trust ETF. This ETF would target institutional investors, according to ETF Trends, as it would open with a share price of $200,000. XBTC is designed to track an index related to a group of Bitcoin trading desks. The idea is that by spreading out the focus of the ETF somewhat, XBTC may be able to alleviate the SEC's concerns about funds that are linked to Bitcoin itself. It was October 19th of this year when the first Bitcoin-related ETF, Proshares Bitcoin Strategy ETF, was launched. This fund trades under the ticker BITO and tracks Bitcoin prices through futures contracts traded at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Here, it is important to note that this fund will not be directly tied to the spot price. Instead, it tracks the future price of Bitcoin. This indicates that the returns from BITO are based on Bitcoin futures contracts. The fund lets you bet on the future of Bitcoin without actually having to buy this cryptocurrency. This opens up the market to far more and potentially far larger investors. This ETF allows investors to make Bitcoin in a more traditional manner. The Chief Technology Officer for Bitcoin rewards app Lolly, Matt Center, stated in an interview with The Independent, "A Bitcoin ETF will provide even more exposure to Bitcoin for those who are perhaps wary of buying it directly from an exchange. By allowing individuals to invest in Bitcoin through ETFs that track its underlying value, investors can become familiar with Bitcoin while fielding aspects of the ownership experience that may be daunting to crypto novices, such as navigating exchanges, wallets, and private keys." Now the question is, how this Bitcoin ETF thing will impact the price of Bitcoin? Well, according to analysts at Fundstrat Global Advisors, the price of this digital currency could even go as high as $168,000 by the end of this year. But you should always keep in mind that cryptocurrencies are volatile and their price could equally crash again. This is the reason why cryptocurrencies are such a risky investment. Referring to Bitcoin, the Bank of England's Deputy Governor for Financial Stability, John Cunliffe, said, "When something in the financial system is growing very fast and growing in a largely unregulated space, financial stability authorities have to sit up and take notice. Regulators internationally and in many jurisdictions have begun to work. It needs to be pursued as a matter of urgency." After the Bitcoin ETF was launched, the price of Bitcoin increased to more than $66,000. As per data published by Coinmetrics, the price of Bitcoin increased 3.9% to $66,398.25. In comparison, Bitcoin reached $64,899 in mid-April. CEO of crypto robo-advisor called Makara, Jesse Proudman, said, "The key here is whether we are able to establish support above $65,000. If we can, the classic Q4 crypto rallies we've seen in most years could take Bitcoin towards some of the loftier price predictions we've seen over the past several months. If sell pressure takes over though, our next leg up could take a while to materialize." You might also want to note that reports suggest that Ethereum also rose 7.4% to cross back over the $4,000 level. It is important to note that Proshares Bitcoin Strategy ETF rose nearly 5% on the first day of trading. According to a report published by CNBC on October 19th of this year, the Proshares Bitcoin Strategy ETF, ticker BITO, jumped 4.8% to close to $41.94. And CEO of Roundhill Investments, Will Hershey, stated in an interview with CNBC, "Trading volumes are exceptional. BITO has traded in excess of $700 million notional. That puts its first day well ahead of retail ETF favorites like Buzz and ARKX when compared to their respective launch days earlier this year." Data published by etbd.com indicates that Proshares is the 8th biggest ETF provider by assets. Also, this firm is popular for its funds that use leverage to track moves in certain indexes multiplied by a certain amount. BITO has already swelled to over $1 billion worth of assets. This makes it the quickest to surpass $1 billion. A senior ETF analyst at Bloomberg, Eric Balchunas, said it was blockbuster smash home run debut. This brings a lot of legitimacy and eyeballs into the crypto space. It's not that this particular ETF is going to bring in hundreds of billions of dollars or anything. It's a bridge to this whole other world that probably isn't that into crypto and might start to be, now that it's being delivered in the format they like. This indicates that more crypto-based ETFs are on the way. In fact, the second US Bitcoin futures exchange-traded fund, called Valkyrie Bitcoin Strategy ETF, started trading on the Nasdaq exchange on October 22nd of this year.
Looking at 1,000 ETFs you have access to. So for example, in the tech sector.
Well, that will be all for our today's video, and thanks for watching it. If you liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Pinterest too, because you can find a lot of interesting content there as well. Take care and stay tuned.